7:45 on Tuesday, April 12th, and I'd like to call the regular council meeting in the city of Twinsburg to order. Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mrs. Labby? Here. Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Post?
Here. Okay, if you please rise for the indication of pledge of allegiance led by Mr. Barr.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that affect all of our residents and businesses and dedicated city employees. Bless those away from us serving to protect our country. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we have approval of the minutes from the March 22nd meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
I second.
Yep.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Any discussion? Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby? Yes.
Okay. No awards or presentations. Audience participation.
First, we have Bruce Baldwin.
Mr. Baldwin.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening, Baldwin.
This was 4:04 just last week. At about 8:45 hours, I seen a black SUV on Haddon Road across from the Get-Go gas station. Watch yourself. I parked myself on Bob Evans Drive and walked up to ask the driver, did he need a hand? Could I do anything to help him out? And sir, he said that he was I told him, I said, you're in a bad spot. You just can't sit there. I said, there's been some accidents there. He said he called the AAA, and I went and checked his vehicle. The front wheel was coming off. So I said, you can't stay here. You're going to get hurt. So I called the police department. Within a minute, I couldn't believe he must have been coming up the road. He was there. But what happened was, not to read the whole thing, I believe I brought this up a good year and a half, 2 years ago. That road, that is where you come around that curve, is so bad. What he did was, I said, did you hit, or he told me, he said, I think I hit something. I said, I think you hit the hole and the front wheel came loose. And he skidded to the driveway enough that I could get off. And then, to me, that road's been bad for how long? And that's what I think happened to the poor guy. I think he was just a victim. I don't really think the guy was going. He was an older guy, he's probably in his 70s. So I thought they were going to patch that hole and fix it up, but I guess not. We talked about last year about the Blue Top Motel. That was last year. We talked about mowing the lawn. We talked about the signs, and Mr. Yates, you said you're going to take care of the signs. I haven't been there this year. There were signs right by we talked about the signs right by Tinker's Creek and that. They're still there from last year. You said you said there were some signs in town. You're going to take care of the signs because they were above on the other side of the telephone pole. And the headers at 82 and Route 8, they're still really bad. You can feel it when you go across with your vehicles. Tinker's Creek's the same thing. It's age. That bridge has been put in how many years ago? It just needs to be patched up. And of course, this winter wasn't the best of winters either. So, okay, that's about it. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself and each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Thank you.
Next, we have Mike Turl.
Good evening, council and mayor, participants in the audience here. Mike Turl, 9930 Forest Lake Drive. I heard or saw a statement that in our State of the City address, Mr. Yates has approved for a redo of our safety town. I would like to say thank you. It is much needed. Has been a long time since anything's been done with that. It looks pretty sad and tired, and friend of mine came in here a few years ago and brought it up or whatever, and she was kind of instructed, you know, if you can get volunteers or donations, then we'll support you. Well, I'm ready to jump right on that bandwagon as well. I have thrown a couple posts out there. The community is just diving into this thing. I've got a list of people that want to volunteer to help. I have people who have volunteered to sponsor homes for this thing. I'm going to model, I would like to model something like what they have in Stowe, something that we could truly be proud of. Those homes were built, like I said one time when I presented here before. Council people all got together on a Saturday afternoon and nailed these things together on some pallets and so that they could move them. And that's good community involvement stuff, you know. If we can do this with donations and volunteers, that $25,000 is, I don't know if that's the correct number, that's what I read somewhere, whatever the amount that has been allocated, can go a lot further towards materials if we are not having to spend that money on wages, you know, for city workers to put this stuff together. I know there's a lot of people, and I would really like to be part of this. I've been in construction my entire life. I know most all aspects of it enough to get some stuff done. I have many contacts in all aspects of construction. I'm sure we could put up a little safety town and do it really nice. And anybody that wants to get involved in it, if somebody wants to help, you can always find a way to use their skills and put them to use. You know, we can have some people chasing down for donations or corporate sponsorships is kind of the direction. I was against the whole corporate sponsorship thing until I saw what it did at Stowe. And it's absolutely beautiful, and it was so tastefully done. And, you know, there was more than a few years ago, I heard someone say, we need residents to get active and help facilitate change in this community. That was this big guy up here. And here I am wanting to get active and bring some change into our city. I am throwing my name in a hat. I would really like to be involved in this Safety Town project because our kids deserve better. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Steve Hummel.
Hello, Steve Hummel, 2500 Old Mill. Just to reiterate quickly, I know I was away from the mic. Basically what I was driving at on that last point, so we can all get it on tape, was the issue about the watershed and where the water went to, and the vast majority in that watershed that's going to be developed is going to be diverted to a whole separate watershed, which goes contrary to the county drainage manual. So that being said, that's that. You know, I want to kind of touch on the environmental council meeting that I attended last week, and I think the at-large was David there, and we had brought up certain issues and about how the residents perceived what was going on in that site and how we found out about it when they started dropping trees. And I think I brought up some points that are the points I think you know, even loggers come in, they don't make that kind of a mess. They don't clear cut. So, I mean, it's not a logger that came in there, it's a guy developing. And what we're concerned about is potentially that the riparian zone should have been left alone. There's a lot of, I think, there's a lot of question about what is under the Army Corps preview and what's not, and about some of these House Bill 175s and what's allowable and what's not. I think things are getting conflated here. You can't just randomly fill everything in and divert water from one watershed to another. That's an issue. You know, like I said, we didn't find out about this until that started happening. And I feel that the riparian zone should be left alone. It's in the ordinance, it's in your ordinance, 1175, somewhere in 1175, about the riparian, natural waterways need to be left with the vegetation. That did not happen. So there were concerns, definitely. You know, we saw that happened. How'd that happen? I wonder how it happened. And then we get to looking in the zoning ordinance at 1103.11 about the Environmental Commission's duties. And it doesn't appear that they were met. They weren't contacted prior to the planning. There was no site plan given the fact that there's, like I pointed out on this little diagram, there's residences all the way around this site, all the way around, on 3 sides except 91, with water wells. It's a sensitive area. A thorough investigation may not have been done, and the environmental council would have come out to the site, and they would have been, I'm sure they would have been involved and active about looking at these issues at that time before, and then made a recommendation to the planning commission. So the residents would have known about this probably 3 years ago when this all started going down, where I guess some company was looking for a place to be. And that's a whole nother story. I don't really want to go there. I've been talking to the county because I have we have people in the county that represent us as citizenry, and we're doing the best we can here. We're concerned, and that's all it is. And whatever people that want to lease in there think about it, they're adults. They all make a decision about what they want to do. Anybody that watches these YouTube videos knows that there's some concerns. We've pointed our concerns out here, environmental concerns, and when you get to the Ordinance 1103.11, which we talked about with David at that meeting, that gave us an alleyway there for the Environmental Commission to do some real work. And we wouldn't have been caught off guard, and maybe this developer would have been able to do things and not be so drastic. That was a drastic move on his part, on their part, in my opinion. And like I said, when you want to massage a site like that with darn near 100,000 cubic yards of fill, that's a real massaging of a site. That's not massaging, that's a manipulation of a site. This is land we're talking about. And this is a watershed that drains the people's homes. So these are all concerns that we have every right to have. And I feel that maybe potentially that could have been brought up in a way such that we were alerted more soon than some, as soon as the people that wanted to maybe have a building built for them. The other issue I have is with this March 1992 Planning Commission, where we talked about ingress and egress off of that site. That's real important, because that land was annexed from the township of Twinsburg, and it was residentially zoned. And back in the day, when they allowed this the Planning Commission allowed this to be built with some conditions. And those conditions, one of the conditions was that they ever subdivided the lots. If there was ever a lot split there, that there had to be a dedicated right-of-way that goes out where Case Parkway South is. Irregardless of what happened, that happened. Now, I looked at the plans from the original building site there, CP Plastic. They have a sewer stub there for future expansion. That tells me something.
1 minute.
The city engineer wanted to push that basin to the north. That all would have allowed for that ingress egress there. So those are the things that we need to be addressing more. And as residents, we're trying to address that more, because that would definitely affect the ability for that development to go in. And not to say we don't want development, but we want it done in a thoughtful way to the residents and the environment and the surroundings and the motors down the road. Because Old Mill ain't a place to have that kind of truck traffic. If you live where I live, you don't even want to be on the road when a truck comes down the road. You got to move over to the white line when a truck's coming the other way. And that's a dangerous spot for a lot of trucking, that's for certain. And I appreciate the extra couple minutes, and I'll let it go at that.
Thank you,
Mr. Hummel.
Next, we have Don Sukowski.
Hello, everybody. Dawn Sukowski, 2445 Old Mill Road. First, I'd like to thank the 5 of you for taking the time out of your day to come meet us, check it out, see the properties, see the building site. I hope you got a pretty good idea of where we're all at here. And you see we're all still here. So we're here to work with you guys. We need you. We appreciate you. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Steve had mentioned about the absence of notification that this was even something that was happening. none of us were provided anything formally from anyone in the city letting us know that, hey, your neighbor is going to build a 1 million square foot building next to your house. None of us received any notification. Going back to a few years ago when we built our pole barn, if you'll call it that, we had to notify, or the city had to notify, we were instructed to, and you guys did as well, notify anyone who had, was next door to us or across the street from us, anyone that could see the building, so that they could, with the building committee, and I believe planning, and this is a couple of years ago, that our neighbors could have a say in what color siding we had, what our doors looked like, how high the windows were. So I don't know where the rules are for how and when you notify someone of something that is of this nature, and it affects your personal life. I don't know if that's something in the, I've watched minutes and I've watched videos and I've read minutes, and there's some verbiage in there that says that under these circumstances you don't have to notify the residents. Under these you do, under those you don't. I did read minutes about the area on 91 that the housing next to the railroad tracks. I can't think of what it's called, but they put a development in there, and they notified all those residents at their homeowners association that, hey, this is going in. If you guys are interested, come check it out. We were just like left in the dark, and I've always questioned whether everyone on the city even knows that we live in the city, that there are 4 homes there. Because my friends who live in Ethan's Green think that we are the township. And if that's it, then fair enough. Now we know. But I think going forward, wherever the rule is that says you have to notify anyone that it might impact in any way, that needs to be something that's across the board. Not if you're putting in an ice cream shop or a 1 million square foot building. I think that anything that might impact a resident needs to be out there for everybody. So that's something that I'm asking that you consider going forward to protect others from going through what we're going through. That's really all I have. Again, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
And last, we have Lynn Clark.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Lynn Clark, 2485 Old Mill Road. And again, this relates to Summit Commerce Number 2, also known as Gumbo. And I just wanted to thank those of you that have come out. Some have actually been there twice now to visit the site to gain a better understanding of its surface water hydrology and the impact this potential development will have on the hydrogeology. The ordinances are very specific where it says studies will be done to address surface water quality and quantity and make sure that it's uninterrupted, and likewise with groundwater quality and quantity. This is an extraordinarily sensitive area, and the plans that we've seen are very disturbing how it's going to impact our community. So for those of you who haven't been, please come. We'll walk around, we'll keep you safe, we'll try to give you a little primer on hydrogeology and surface water hydrology, and give you a little introduction into some of the flora and fauna that are on the threatened and endangered species that are in that community. And again, our city ordinances talk about protecting those ecological systems. So, ladies, please come. Gentlemen, please come. Almost any time you can find somebody to accompany you. And again, thank you for those of you who have already been there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we have this evening.
Okay. Thank you to all those that spoke. We appreciate that. Next, we'll move on to Council Communication Committee reports. Mr. Post.
Yes, I attended a couple meetings. I attended the environmental meeting last week, a few weeks ago, and again, there are a couple dates coming up. April 23rd, Saturday, is the parks cleanup. June 25th is the document shredding. It's free for all to bring your documents. And in August, we're going to do an e-recycle program as well. Shannon, I just sent you a text about 10 minutes ago, checked it out. There's a, do you know, actually, I'll just ask, on April 23rd, is there a time that it starts? I actually don't know that. We've mentioned it in the Environmental Commission meeting multiple times. Is there a start location and time? I know Chuck told me that he talked to somebody in the city and he worked with them and he was on all that, but I've not actually heard that piece of it.
He did not speak with me. I know at one point he was speaking with Simone from Public Works, and I know that the mayor had been talking about an employee being able to help with coordinating some of that.
Yeah, I believe he was working with Ski and Public Works, so, but
I've just not heard a start time or location or any of that. Is there, does anyone know if that's been?
For the cleanup?
I will see what I can find out.
yeah.
Okay.
In the past, they've started at the senior center. I know we've met up there, and we've all dispersed from there. But I don't know what that's this time, but we have done that in the past.
Okay, and that is April 23rd, and we also had the residents come speak at the Environmental Commission. I did want to mention, I know that you guys forwarded to me, and you just brought it up tonight. I'm also doing it now since we're talking about the Environmental Commission. 1103.11, which is the Environmental Commission responsibilities. I think though that was from 2000, and there was an updated one that's been more recent, and I have that here. That was in 09. There was a new one created, 151. Chapter 151 is the Environmental Commission and their responsibility. So it actually was completely. One of the things we talked about was what are the actual duties of the Environmental Commission, and that was brought up. And I know that Shannon, you said that the city is, working some of those things out. But if you check Chapter 151, you'll see that it has been rewritten completely from what document you showed me. And if you go there, it is. That'll make more clear the responsibilities. If you check 151, I can. Mark, I have your email. I'll forward that to you also. Okay. And I did attend the Public Works meeting today, but I'll let Mr. Sukowski talk about that, and that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fury.
Thank you, and good evening. On March 24th, I attended the Tax Incentive Review Committee meeting. It's an annual meeting with the county, the school system, and the city officials to review top agreements and CRA agreements to make sure that the abatements that were given are the people that got those are living up to the number of employees or the revenue that they expected to generate in order to get those abatements. All but one company was in compliance, and we will vote on those later this evening. Again, that committee meets annually. The ARB canceled their April 7th meeting. The next scheduled meeting of the ARB will be at 6 p.m. in council chambers on April 21st. I was also supposed to attend a JEDI committee last night on 4/11, and that will be rescheduled for May. And that's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Barr.
Good evening. Since our last meeting, none of my committees have met. We do have a planning commission meeting scheduled for this coming Monday, April 18th at 7 p.m. in council chambers. And look forward to seeing you there. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. As was just mentioned, the Public Works Committee met earlier this evening. We had a few things on the agenda. Amy Moore, our engineer, went through the agenda with us. First of all, we talked about the East Idalwood Pedestrian Bridge. We are applying for a Nature Works grant in order to have that bridge replaced. It's in disrepair at times, and I know Public Works has done their best to keep it together and keep it safe for our residents that are going from the street side over to the park side or to the playground area. So we're looking forward to replacing that bridge in the near future. We also talked about, we got an update on the State Route 82 and Chamberlain signal area. We had some concerns up there about the signaling and the timing on that signal, and some adjustments were made. Actually, the adjustments were made to the max that they could adjust that, because it's timed with a string of signals up and down 82. So we'll see how that works out, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. We also talked about AMETS did a traffic safety study for us on Haddon and Route 82, where there's been, somebody mentioned that, I think earlier, Mr. Baldwin, I believe, mentioned it, yeah, about accidents there, and there is a report that we got from AMETS, so we'll be looking at that report as well. Also, we got, Amy talked about a roadway federal functional classification of all of our roads in the community, so she's going through that as well. And that was the end of the Public Works meeting. The next meeting will be held on June 14th at 6 o'clock here in the council chambers. Other than that, the Board of Zoning Appeals will be meeting on April 27th, and again, right here in the council chambers at 6:30, so that'll be their next meeting. And other than that, that's all I have. Mrs. Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I did attend the Public Works meeting today. My community relations meeting, that will be sometime in June. I don't have a date yet. And also on the JEDI committee, they have not met, but they're scheduled for the month of May, and I'll keep you posted on that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Baldwin.
Good evening, thank you. On Thursday, April 7th, I attended Mayor Yates' State of the City address at Glen Eagles. I will allow him to elaborate, but I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce as well as Aaron and Moses for hosting that event. It was outstanding. I also attended this evening's Public Work Committee. Thank you, Mr. Scafidi, for your report. The next Finance Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, April 26th at 6 p.m. in Council Chambers. The next meeting of the Safety Committee will be on Tuesday, May 10th, also here in Council Chambers at 6 p.m. And the next Gulf Advisory Board meeting will be held on May 17th, 6:30 p.m., also here in Council Chambers. Nothing further this evening. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Levy.
Thank you, Sam. Good evening. I attended the Twins Days meeting on the 6th. As of today, or as of that day, there were 445 paid twins coming already to the event in August. There was supposed to be a JEDI meeting yesterday. That is a continuation of the half-day session we had, which will be now on May 9th. So anyone looking to attend the JEDI's meetings will have to go out another month now because of that, because I know there are people interested in that. So we don't have a date for you when there will be a full JEDI committee meeting, but we will certainly let you know. I attended Public Works today, most notably for my ward. There were approximately 10 seconds added to the light from Chamberlain to 82, which was a concern, especially with morning traffic. I also did attend the mayor's luncheon, and as I told the mayor today, I was thrilled that he ended with scripture, and I thank you for that. That's all.
Mrs. Levy, that Twins Day registration, was that 445 or is that 890? How many people? Is that one?
445 paid. I don't know that. That's a good question. I think it's individuals. I think it's individuals.
I think it's sets of twins, probably.
It's an odd number, so let's go with it sets.
Might have been a triplet. Yeah.
That's right, it could have been. Just curious, that's all. Thank you. That's all the reports.
Impressive man.
All right, we will move on to the mayor's report.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple of things going on. I want to thank Parks and Rec. We had some great Easter events this past weekend, both adult and kids. I've heard great things about them. So I just want to thank all the work that goes into those. People don't really realize the amount of work that goes into some of the events we do, so thank you for pulling those off. I do want to thank all that came to my State of the City. We had a good turnout. Thank the Chamber for hosting it. They always do a great job, as well as Aaron and Moses this year. I also want to thank Eileen Shapiro and the county. So we had great representation there from the county. It's great to take an interest in some of the local government things that we have going on here. I did submit a grant application for the state's biennial capital budget regarding our projects that we've kind of been postponing up at Glen Chamberlain Park, so looking at the bathroom, the playground equipment, which is extremely old and we really can't get parts for anymore, and then we've had an issue we've been working on with ADA access at the Rock the Park. So as those concerts continue to grow, there's some work we need to do to those facilities. So I did submit, a grant to try to get some money and help with those particular projects, and so hopefully those happen. Let's see, moving on. We do have a new HR director in town. So Kelly Perez has joined the city. This is her first council meeting. I'm going to end my report and let her come up and formally introduce herself and give her report. So go on, Kelly.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. I don't really have a report, still pretty new, but I did want to let everybody know we're going to have our seasonal job fair. It's going to be at the community center on April the 25th, which is on Monday, 2:30 to 7 p.m. to give students enough time to get over. So if you know anybody that's interested, let them know. And that's pretty much all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
I just want to let you know that I've been saying I'm new on council for about 4 months, and I've just stopped, so you got a few more months you can keep using that line. Yeah, but you're still new, so you're working on it.
Yeah.
3 more months.
Yeah, with our job fair, we are looking for primarily lifeguards. That's really something that we're fighting to get right now. So if you know anyone that's interested in, that is a lifeguard and would like to join us or would like to become a lifeguard, we will train them to be a lifeguard. So those are a couple of the jobs we're looking for. I know there may be some golf course, some service positions still available, but primarily we're looking for the outdoor pool. Also, we're just finishing up some interviews for our Economic Development Director. Larry Finch is retiring, so we have been interviewing candidates from really around kind of the country. We've had some interesting candidates from different parts of the country as well as local, so hopefully in the next week or so, by the next council meeting, we may be announcing a new Economic Development Director. And I think that's all we have from the HR side. Chris, you want to report?
Good evening, Council. Well, the Service Department is back from winter operations. They actually came back a week early to line up with the pay periods. And so they were able to get out and get some of the work done that they had started in the wintertime. Road maintenance, the storm area checks, just so it gave us an opportunity to get a head start on things. Once we got through that work, we started the branch chipping, and it went pretty quick. We were actually done within the week. So that program's off and running, and that again will be every month. So we've got that done. And let's see, so I wanted to give you a couple updates of some of the work that we're going to be doing. The crack sealing program. We've done very little of that the last few years. We're going to start that. Well, it was scheduled to start April 11th, but we've had some rain, so that's coming quick. Street sweeping, we're going to get that started pretty early here. We on the street sweeping, we always wait till there's no salt on the road. So we've decided there's going to be no more salt on the road. We've actually purchased our full allotment through our ODOT program, so I don't need any more salt, so we're not going to throw any more. So a couple other things I wanted to report on the streetlight inspection program, which is going really, really well, and I'm happy about that. We've actually reported 170 lights that are out. 97 repairs have been made, and what surprised us a little bit is when we go in there, we think, the bulb's out. We're finding out that there's some bad light heads, underground wiring is bad, so Ohio Edison is finding a whole host of issues. And what also surprised me is we did the first list, and it was like something around 68 units. Got that all done, and the crew, before they came back from shifts, they went back out to check. There were 100 more out. So it's an ongoing thing, but we've got a really great contact at Ohio Edison. He's taken a personal interest in what we've got, and we send him a list every week, sends us back the results, and it's going really well. So that's been going real well, so we're happy about that. I report periodically on the wastewater plant's microturbine, and I've had to, over the years, report it's a great unit, it runs well, but we had one nagging problem, and that was the compressor. Our maintenance crew found the correct, what we come to find out was the correct unit for that, the correct compressor. It was just a misapplication when they first put that in. Found it, our maintenance guys put the unit in themselves, made the modifications, and every day that goes by is better and better and better. That thing just runs, we're producing a bunch of electricity, and it's really saving us a bunch of money. So, hats off to the maintenance crew. They do a fantastic job. And I wanted to let you know, we are going to ramp up our efforts on playground equipment. To that end, we sent 2 people for a 3-day training seminar. So they go into these playground areas, and they'll actually assess the equipment. Through this training, it tells them what to look for, some of the safety issues, and we're going to put a program together, and we're going to put not only a short-term but a long-term program together to get a lot of these playground equipment either repaired or replaced. We're not sure at this point. We find that a lot of this stuff becomes outdated, but we'll figure that out, and once we do, we'll put it on a long-term program. So we're excited about that. And it was funny, talking to the gentleman that went to the training, came back, they were really surprised at what they learned. So there's a lot, there's a lot more to that stuff than meets the eye. So we're always looking to enhance what we do, and I think we've picked a few areas that are going that way. So, and that's my report.
Chris, go ahead, Dave.
I think you looked at this park area right off Sharon Brook.
Okay.
I think you looked at it for 2 years ago. And how is it looking now, or should we keep it? Because I don't see a lot of kids playing there anymore. I think they're like teenagers now, or maybe married. Do you think it's worth keeping that park?
We'll assess all that when we go through there, because you can tell if a park's being used.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll put our report together.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Speaking of Ohio Edison, who would be the one that would be calling Ohio Edison about that pole on Chamberlain and Ravenna Road? That, I don't know if it was hit or if it just rotted and broke, but they already replaced it. They put the new pole up, and it's probably been there 6 weeks, I would say at the least. And the broken pole is still there, and it's being held up by the wire that's still on that pole. The issue is, and I understand, is that Ohio Edison's taken all their wires off of there, and they put them on the new pole. And this probably either is cable or phone or somebody else on their pole.
Okay.
And they can't remove it until that's gone. But my issue with that is, and I've dealt with this in other communities, is that it's your pole. If you can't control who's on your poles, and you've got a pole that's standing there barely, and it could be a hazard at this point because it's snapped. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
They've got to have some leverage with these utilities to get that off of there so they could remove their pole.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who would be calling. Would that be you or would that be engineering? But who takes care of that here?
I've heard Amy talk about that very problem, and she just can't get them. I don't know what the issue is, but I'll talk to her about this particular.
And I'll shoot her an email as well. But if you would mention it to her, I'd appreciate it as well. Okay, thank you.
All righty.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Jen, you want to go?
Good evening, Council. So just want to give you a couple quick updates in Parks and Rec. Camp registration started on Monday. Water pack passes are on sale, so if you want that preseason discount, please do it by May 28th. Rock the Park, we started announcing yesterday. Anybody that went to the adult day actually got a preview of what the season's going to look like, so those will start coming out here quick. Our department's known for all of our events, and a lot of people focus on the fun events that we do. What they forget about is the other things that our department focuses on and looks at. One of the things that I did last fall was look at Safety Town. And as a resident and as someone that also works for the city, I think there's something that we can do. So I've met with some local nonprofits. I've met with some businesses, some other city residents, as well as a few of the departments, and we're working on a plan for Safety Town. I had the buildings removed last fall so that those were no longer part of the problem. We are looking at possibly moving Safety Town after some discussions that we've had with some of the surrounding communities and our resource officers that actually operate Safety Town. It's not a great or ideal spot for it. It's not accessible, and we want the entire community to be able to use it. So we won't be ready this year for a new spot, but we are in talks and making plans to bring that forward to you. The mayor and I have talked with Chris and Amy about some potential locations for that. We're fortunate enough to be able to get that $25,000 into the budget, so we will use that. But this year we're going to make some modifications to the Safety Town program so that we are not using that space. But for the 2023 Safety Town program, we will have a brand new location in mind. And we will have opportunities for a lot of residents, scouts, businesses, and things to be involved in that. So we just wanted to give you that update, and we'll keep updating you on that. So
Great.
our last thing is just our seasonal help. Kelly's been great about getting us this job fair because lifeguards are in short supply. So other than that, we're ready for the summer. So thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that. I think, when you look at Safety Town, we've been talking about it for at least 2 or 3 years right now. And then I know with the ARPA funds, council approved that. It wasn't me. But we did have discussions about how we want to use the money, and I think that was talked about for months as we planned all that out. But we are looking at potentially moving the location. There's going to be conversations with our resource officers, as well as just look at the program in general, because when you build a Safety Town, it can be used throughout our warmer months as just another recreation type area, because during the actual week, I think there's half hour that's used during the program of that location and the stuff that goes on. The rest of it is mostly in class and with buses and a lot of different things. So when we build it and design it, we want to put it in an area that is going to have a little more public access to it. So, but anyway, thank you. And then, Chief? It looked like he was raising his hand, sorry.
Good evening, Council. For the month of March, we had 304 calls for service. That brings us up to a total of 941 for the year. That's 23% ahead of last year's pace. We had 31, almost 32% overlapping calls. For the month, we also completed 51 inspections. 37 of those were annual safety inspections, 14 were re-inspections. And we also worked on 6 fire investigations. We completed 120 classes, training sessions, totaling 464 hours of training. And we also had 10 hours of public education that had contact with 50 residents. Under points of interest, the weather warning sirens. April's test was conducted on the 2nd, and this time there were 3 sites that were not working properly. The one at Liberty and Cannon did not shut off on its own, so it had to be shut off manually. The one at Liberty and Post is still not functioning, still waiting on parts to be delivered for that, the repair of that unit. And then the third unit was on Ravenna Road in the township by the British American Club. That's been turned over to the Township Service Department, and they're addressing that. I believe they have parts on order for that repair as well. Under personnel, we are currently working on refilling our part-time administrative assistant position. So we've received a number of applications for that, so we'll be reviewing those presently. And the fleet continues to be in pretty good shape, and we've got some committees working on potential replacement of Ladder 2 and also refurbishment of Tower 1. And as been previously announced, we have 2 med units on order, and we anticipate they'll be delivered late 2023. Our COVID operations continue. We did, fortunately, we've had no more people sick, but I did have the opportunity to pick up some more resources from the county on the 23rd. So we continue to keep our PPE and testing supplies up to a good inventory levels. Some projects that are in process. We are currently reviewing the emergency operations plan, and we are also in the process of performing the FEMA 2020 Assistance to Firefighters Grant. You'll be taking action on one of those items tonight in accepting the bid for the exhaust evacuation system for Station 2. We all have a power cot on order and 3 thermal imaging cameras on order also under that grant. The FEMA 2020 Fire Prevention and Safety Grant is also being has been awarded, and we've already received the residential Knox boxes under that program, so we'll be making more Knox boxes available to residents who need them. And on the topic of Knox boxes, I just want to highlight the work that our Fire Marshal Lieutenant Dunn has been doing. We have an ordinance in the city that requires all new construction to have a Knox box mounted on the building. That is a system that helps us make quick access to the building in case of emergency. But the ordinance as it stands is only, was established in the mid-90s, so it was buildings after the 90s, after the mid-90s that had them added. Anything built before that was not required to have it, but Lieutenant Dunn's really been hitting it hard with some of those legacy buildings, just trying to get them up to date and get them to convinced that it's a worthwhile effort to get those on their building so we can make quick access and hopefully limit damage if we're trying to make entry for a false alarm or something of that nature. So he's doing some great work there. Our current staffing is we're working on reviewing part-time candidate applications, looking to bolster our part-time roster. Unfortunately, we did have one part-timer resign at the end of last month because of other scheduling complications and a change of season in life for him. So that, I think, concludes my report for this evening. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks,
All
Chief.
right, thanks, Chief. All right, Jim?
It's his radio.
Good evening, Council. Just a brief update about the golf course. Winter maintenance was completed in early March, and this included repairs and preventative maintenance on all golf course equipment. We were also able to get out on the golf course to remove several dead ash trees that we marked out in the fall. The golf course came out of winter very well considering the weather we had over the last several months and was open for play officially on March 17th. Since that time, the grounds crew has been busy starting to get the golf course in shape for the season, and some of these items include preparing all playing surfaces such as greens, tees, and fairways for play, turf applications, picking up limbs and debris that had fallen over the winter, course setup and pin locations, drainage inspections, and clearing off drains from residual leaves from last fall. We also started rolling the greens and mowing. We actually have 2 cuts on the greens right now. So in between the raindrops, we're trying to get some things cut at this time. And then Also, the driving range is open, and it is artificial mats at this time until we get better consistent growing conditions. At that point, we'll look to open up the grass tee, and that usually happens sometime in May, weather permitting. Tonight, there are 2 ordinances in front of council. One is for purchase of a grinder, which sharpens our cutting units on the golf course for the equipment. This is to replace a 1996 unit. And then also, we have another ordinance for a purchase of a mower, which its main focus is to mow the rough on the golf course, and that is to replace a 2006 unit too as well. Lastly, I'm working on seasonal hires, getting the crew ready for the season. So that includes my report.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Jim. All right, Sarah?
Good evening, Council. Just a reminder that Monday is the income tax filing due date, so if you haven't filed your city income taxes and your federal and state, but mostly city, please get that done by Monday. Rita is running extra hours, so if you need help, you can still call them. They have also completed our Subpoena Program, so that program cost us about $3,200, and that just sent out those notices to the residents. You may have had some residents call you with questions on it. It cost us $3,200, generated $123,000, so it was a good program. And then at the May Finance Committee meeting, we're gonna hopefully present it's called a popular annual financial report. And it's gonna take that 200-page financial report that we do and turn it into something that we can release to the public that's just a few pages, highlights of the important information from last year. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah.
All right, that's all we have.
Is that it, Mayor? Okay. Then we will move on to tonight's legislation. First, we got Ordinance 30, 2022.
An ordinance amending Chapter 111, Council of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Twinsburg regarding council rules.
Okay, and that stands on its second reading. Ordinance 37, 2022.
An ordinance adopting the document known as the Comprehensive Plan for the Municipality of Twinsburg.
And that also stands on its second reading. We have Resolution 38, 2022.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation to participate in the ODOT road salt contracts awarded in 2022.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 37, 2022. May I have a second? 38, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 38, 2022 passes 7-0. Next, we have Ordinance 39, 2022.
An ordinance authorizing the sale at auction of certain personal property owned by the City of Twinsburg and no longer needed for municipal purposes.
And that stands on its first reading. Resolution 40, 2022.
A resolution authorizing the continuation of various agreements under the Community Reinvestment Area Program created pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 3735.66 for real property tax abatement.
Okay, at this time, I make a motion to adopt Resolution 40, 2022. Is there a second?
No, second.
Mrs. Labby seconds. Any discussion? Call the roll, Shannon.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 40, 2022 passes 7-0. Resolution 41, 2022.
A resolution authorizing the continuation of various agreements to provide tax incentives under the terms and conditions of the Twinsburg Occupancy Program established by Ordinance 144, 2004.
Okay, I make a motion to adopt Resolution 41, 2022. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 40, Resolution 41, 2022 passes 7-0. Resolution 42, 2022.
A resolution terminating the Twinsburg Occupancy Program agreement between the City of Twinsburg and Scratch Off Systems as recommended by the Tax Incentive Review Council.
Okay, make a motion to adopt Resolution 42, 2022. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Barr seconds. Any discussion? Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin.
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 42, 2022 passes 7-0. Ordinance 43, 2022.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for the general revenue account as established in Ordinance 15, 2022, the appropriation ordinance for the city of Twinsburg for the year 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place Ordinance 43, 2022 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Any discussion on that? Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Okay, emergency passes 7-0. Or I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 43, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, 43 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Resolution 44, 2022.
A resolution authorizing the city engineer to prepare and submit an application with the State Nature Works program.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 44, 2022. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Barr seconds. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 44, 2022 passes 7-0. Resolution 45, 2022.
A resolution appointing one member to the Architectural Review Board and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I make a motion to adopt Resolution 45, 2022. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do you want to make your...
I'd like to make, I would like to make an amendment and add the name Mike Gillen to the person we're appointing to the ARB. May I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes. Now I would like to, I've already made the motion, call the roll on resolution to adopt Resolution 45, 2022 as amended.
And as emergency.
And as emergency, yes, that's right.
Okay.
Do I have a second there? Who seconded that?
I second.
Mrs. Walker did. Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Resolution 45, 2022 passes 7-0 as an emergency and as amended. Ordinance 46, 2022.
An ordinance accepting the bid of Magna Grip for the group diesel exhaust source capture system at Fire Station 2 and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place Ordinance 46, 2022 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
A second.
Mrs. Labby seconds. Discussion. Call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 46, 2022. May I have a second?
A second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Okay, Ordinance 26, 2022 passes 7-0. Ordinance 47, 2022.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into an agreement with Century Equipment for the purchase of a Foley grinder for use at the Golf Maintenance Department and declaring an emergency.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place Ordinance 47, 2022 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Any discussion on the emergency? Call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Okay, now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 47, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Who's second? Mrs. Levy. Okay. Any discussion on the adoption? Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Okay, Ordinance 47, 2022 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Ordinance 48, 2022.
An ordinance authorizing the city to both participate in the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program and to enter into an agreement pursuant to the same for the acquisition of a Toro Groundmaster 4000 rough mower and declaring an emergency.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 48, 2022 on its third and final reading and declared an emergency. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Discussion? All right, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 48, 2022 as an emergency. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Discussion? Call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 48, 2022 passes 7-0 as an emergency. And that ends our legislation for tonight. Next, we'll move on to unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. Start with you, Mr. Bellin.
Nothing further this evening, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Walker.
I just want to mention about what Michael Turrell regarding the Safety Town, and we talked about it today, and he wants to be a part of it. So all I can say is Michael, Jennifer, Michael. So she's your path if she needs you. And also I want to say the mayor gave a wonderful State of the Union address. It was really nice. Even the food was good. The company was good. It was really nice. And I think you've outdone yourself, Mayor, this time. You really did. It was heartfelt and it was wonderful. It really was. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Fury.
Nothing further this evening, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I would like to make a motion to go out to bid for the Public Works uniform contract. May I have a second?
I'll second. Yield.
Mr.
I'll second.
Mr. Barr. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fury.
Any discussion? Shannon, call the roll.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Okay, and then I would also like to make a motion that City Council does not oppose the new liquor permit for Ohio Springs Incorporated doing business as Sheetz Convenience Store located at 2495 East Aurora Road, and authorize the clerk to submit the form to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Discussion. This is going to the new D1 permitting, as we did
Is
before.
D1 just beer, what is, you know,
I'll refer that to Mr. Vazana. D1, is that, what is that?
Of course, I closed my computer already. Give me 1 second.
It's what we did for,
Yeah, it's the same one. I'm trying to remember.
yeah, beer and wine.
It's low-level alcohol
Some think it's
in
beer and wine.
consumption.
okay.
Yeah.
That's, I think also.
That's it, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
low-level
Yeah,
spirit.
slushies.
Alcoholic
That's what they wanted to
slushies.
do.
Slushies, that was the
I think
thing.
so.
Yeah, low-level.
Because that would be included in the low level.
There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome. You want to head up there now?
It's
not in place yet.
Don't quote me on the alcoholic slushies.
Okay.
Let's go with that later.
Any other discussion?
I'm quoting you.
We didn't vote on that yet, right? You'll have
We
call
did
for a
not
vote,
vote.
please.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Labby?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Okay, that's the end of that. We have no absent members, I think. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. How did I forget that? How did I forget you guys?
He's new.
I thought mine was the most important. I'm sorry, hold on. Mr. Post.
Yes. I just want to remind everyone that we have videos due at the end of the month from Steve Basso. I was just asking about it, and he's, right? We have videos that we have to get done, the training, the training for the,
FEMA.
It's FEMA, yeah, the FEMA training,
Training.
there's four introductory courses, so
yeah. Just want to,
It's not a video.
not a video, it's online.
Has anyone been through those yet?
I've taken
NIMS
3 of the
online
4.
certification.
I've done 3 of the 4. I got one more to test.
800 looks rough.
Just wanted to remind everybody it's due by April 30th.
Thank you.
According to Steve. And, that's it.
Okay. Mr. Barr.
Thank you for that, Mr. Post.
Did you remember?
No, not even remotely.
Well, there you go.
Parks and Rec did a great job this weekend. My family and I attended a couple of the Easter events, and congratulations. It was a great event. Nice to see it back here in the city, all around, kids stuff, adult stuff. Nice job. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mrs. Labby.
Nothing further for me tonight.
Okay, Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to wish everyone a happy Easter. For those of the Christian faith, this is the most important holiday that we celebrate, so hopefully you take some time to really reflect on that. And with that, that's all I have.
Great. Mr. Pizzana.
Nothing further from me tonight. Thank you. Have a
Okay.
good weekend.
Shannon Collins.
Nothing further.
Okay. Mrs. Bouchigras.
I'm sorry, I do have two quick things.
All right.
First, I have a work from home update. Cardinal Health, a large employer of the city, formally announced plans to continue work from home options for their employees. We had a call today. The distribution center in town will remain open with 120 workers continuing to work at that location. An additional 29 office workers will be working in the city as well. So that's 823 workers that will not return to work at the Twinsburg location, but will continue to work from the field or from home, depending on their job. And then they are going to put 2 properties onto the market in the near future, and we've connected them with economic development. And then also, it is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, so thank a dispatcher. And that's all I have. Thank you.
That's true. Okay. That's it. I think that's it. I would like to thank everybody that attended tonight. Thank you for your comments and your participation. Thank everyone that watched at home. We appreciate you taking an interest in what we do up here. And at that point, I guess we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.